The curtain went up, the huge figure of King Kong. The audience broke into thunderous applause. Carl told his men to move the switches. The sound of heavy iron chains filled the air. King Kong's hands were slowly raised. He's been very quiet at Carl's mercy. Then he heard Anne's name. During the audience applause, Anne's hands were bound. She was moved to the center of stage. The previously calm Kong became restless at this moment. She excitedly shook her body, looking at Annie, who kept her head down and remained silent. Her eyes were filled with worry and concern. Kong stood up. Annie slowly raised her head. Kong showed a puzzled look. It turned out that this woman was not Annie, but dressed up to look like her. The gorilla roared. It turned out to be a stage performance arranged by Carl. The gorilla's feelings became more and more. The bright lights kept his eyes open. It makes him angry and uneasy. Looking at the real Anne in front of him, the gorilla struggled more and more. His feelings became more and more irritable. An audience unaware of the truth still clapping their hands excitedly. The gorilla finally broke free from his bonds. The audience became nervous now. Then, he let out a roar, which scared the audience and caused them to run away in all directions. The chaos at the scene. King Kong picked up Anne in one hand and he threw her aside casually. The audience ran out the door without hesitation. King Kong also broke free from his hand. He got up and ran outside, beat people who haven't had a chance yet. They ran out and called for their parents. I only hate my parents for having 2 less legs. The outside scene was also bad, as the audience no longer cared about them. Big Nose stood in front of King Kong and did not escape. King Kong looked at him maliciously. Then, he attacked King Kong. He made a big leap. The second floor stands up. The huge weight caused the stands to fall down. Kong slowly moved forward, step by step. Big Nose tries to run away. Kong followed closely. The second floor quickly. They soon caught him. Big Nose ran down the stairs, saving his life. Kong went out the window. He ran down the street. And a car couldn't stop to hit him. Then there was another one. More cars because of this big guy who suddenly appeared. I bumped into each other, quickly causing chaos on the street. The crowd on the street began to scream, which made Kong even more agitated. He kept turning in circles in the street. He crashed more cars. Suddenly, he spotted a blonde girl in the crowd, grabbed her and inspected her carefully. However, it wasn't his own Annabelle, so he threw her aside and continued searching in the crowd. Another blonde girl caught his attention. Soon, he found another woman. However, it wasn't the him he wanted. He became more angry, more frantic, every car along the way. Just to find the one in my heart. After several disappointments, he took his anger on a bus. There are many people in the bus. Seeing that they are about to be killed by King Kong, but then the driver came up to King Kong, immediately caught his attention. King Kong slowly put down the bus in his hand. He rushed towards him, and the big nose man quickly drove backwards. Kong followed closely behind and started running as well, and the big nose man led him through busy streets, through narrow alleys, hoping to lead him to a place with fewer people, so as to avoid more innocent people from being injured. Finally, Kong caught up with him. It was smashed with one punch. His car. The large man also fainted. Suddenly, Kong's movement stopped. He looked down the quiet street. A figure slowly came. This beautiful woman looked like Annie. As he came closer, Kong finally saw, sure enough, it was Annie he was thinking about all the time. The two of them were getting closer and closer. Finally, they both stopped. Annie looked at him. And he looked at her. Time stood still right now. Annie reached out and touched his body. Kong gently held him in his palm. Annie touched his face. His movements were so gentle. Her face was so happy. Kong took Annie and slowly walked down the street. He lost the ferociousness he had just shown. They walked through the forest and came to the park. The ice surface was very slippery. Kong almost fell to the ground. And laughed as she did. Clumsy giant in front of her, Kong simply sat on the ice and spun around. He was enjoying himself and was happy as she watched him. This was his Skull Island story. First smile. They kept spinning on the ice, like a dance between two people. King Kong also became happier as they played more and more, both of them immersed in this beautiful moment, completely forgetting everything around them, really hoping that this happiness could last forever. However, a bomb fell on the ice, flying King Kong. He moved forward with all his strength. Running down the street. Bullets from behind followed and shot at him. He jumped up. He crushed a car. They climbed up the iron buildings to the top. He jumped from one rooftop to the other. The shells below are still shooting upward. Just skillfully dodged them. He took her to ride on rooftops, the direction of the Empire State Building. He went up the outside wall of the building. He still held Annie in his hands. He then went to the top floor of the building. He sat there thinking that nobody would disturb them here anymore. He gazed at Annie in the palm of his hand, watching the sun rise in the distance. It felt as if returning to the beautiful night on Skeleton Island. Annie spoke the same words as that night. Just as the two indulged in their sweet memories, the roar of fighter jets interrupted them.